Squad. It is me, JB, and we are here today, you guys, with another review for Abbott Elementary Season 5, Episode 6. The episode was titled No Phones. Now, before we go ahead and get into it, if you guys are not subscribed to the channel, then I need you guys to do me a solid favor and stop taking me out on this date and having me pay for it at the end of it. You guys know the routine. You can do me that favor by liking the video, subscribing to the channel, turning on your post notifications, and also by sharing the video. And with that out of the way, without further ado, let us go ahead and get into this episode of Abbott Elementary, shall we? All right, guys, so another good episode of Abbott. It had me laughing from beginning to the end, right? So we see Ava in her office, right? So Ava is playing with the darts and she's pretending that it's, well, she ain't pretending. She has Crystal's face on the dartboard, right? So the little white boy, Charlie, he came into her office, right? Because he's in trouble. And so she was like, why? Oh, I got a spot on my shirt. I didn't even know that. But she was like, what are you doing here, Charlie? And so Charlie said he said a bad word to his teacher. And she was like, what is it? He was like, I can't say it again. She said, what does it start with? He said it started with an N. And she was like, Charlie, like, what? And I was thinking, Ava, I don't know if it's that word that you're thinking. He was like, but all the other kids call me that. And my parents said, she's like, wait a minute, your parents say it? So Daya comes in and Daya lets her know the word that Charlie said was nerd. And so Ava was like, got on the intercom and was like, do not send any kids to my office if they didn't really do anything, right? I thought that shit was funny. So we see Ava and she's talking to the teachers, right, in the gym. She's telling them not to turn the thermostat above, like with the heat, I think it was like 75 or something like that. I don't remember. And with the air, like 70 or 71 or something like that. I forgot what the exact numbers, right? So we see Barbara. So Barbara is in her church group text message, right? Because one of the church members, her birthday, Sister Sloss is her birthday, and Barbara wants to be as disrespectful as she can. So because she loathes the woman. Then we see Gregory. Gregory, he is having some issues with his car. Janine is like, make the sounds and maybe we can tell you. No, actually it was Gregory, not Gregory, but Jacob who said this, right? Make the sounds and maybe we can tell you what the issues are with your car. So he makes the sounds and Ava was like, Gregory, stop making that sound. And so she said, because it sounds like you're doing such and such and such and such, right? So then we see as a woman from the district came to tell them that they're going to take the kids, they're going to take their phones, right? Because they have this whole initiative where they're going to take the phones from every student for the day to see if they can, maneuver throughout the course of the day without their phones. And they're going to put it in a little lockbox, right? Anybody who opens the lockbox, they are immediately disqualified. Then on top of that, if they able to make it the entire school day without their phones, the kids will get a pizza party, right? So initially they thought it was just the kids, but she was like, no, it's everybody, administration included, right? So we see as we get to the day started, right? So Janine is with her students, and one of her students was like, Miss Teagues, I need to use the restroom. She's like, okay. And Janine was like, what is today's date? She's like, it's the 5th. And Janine was like, oh crap, I pay rent on the 5th. And her student was like, isn't rent due on the 1st? I said it absolutely is due on the 1st, right? So then Janine went to Gregory and she's like, Gregory, can I use your phone because I need to pay my rent before the late fees kick in? I was thinking to myself, don't the late fees kick in like on the third, after the 3rd day of the month? But hey, Janine's, I guess hers kick in on the 5th day of the month, right? And Greg was like, I don't have my phone either because, I'm waiting to speak to my mechanic. And so he's trying to figure out, she's like, why don't you just call from the landline? And he was like, landline? I was like, wow. It's crazy to think that things that I grew up with are ancient at this point, right? it's mind blowing, right? Now we see Daya. So Daya saw Ava. Ava has her burner phone, and she told her, "This is Ava talking to Daya, telling Daya if she says anything that she will fire her." Now Jacob is telling his kids like how this is probably gonna be good for them being disconnected, and one of them was like, "Well, Mr. Hill, you're on your computer," and he was looking at a decision that the Supreme Court had ruled on, and he was trying to get updates on it, but the computer was going slow. And so he's freaking out. He's thinking, he's freaking out because he doesn't know what's happening on social media and how people are reacting to the news. Then we see Melissa. Melissa needs her password because she has a fantasies team, and one of her players, I believe she said Mahomes, but one of her players is hurt, right? And so she's also having this issue in her side, and so she's waiting for some medical results. Now, Barbara is freaking out because of her church group, because she's freaking out about her church group and the fact that she can't log into her lesson plan. And I was like, why can't you log into your lesson plan, Barbara? But it got me to thinking, could I unplug from my phone for a day? Yes, I could. Would I remember a lot of things? Probably not. Like, I probably remembered it. I probably would not remember the date. I probably wouldn't remember, unless I had a watch. Could I survive without my phone for a day? I feel like I could, but I don't know, right? So we see Ava. So Ava is looking for a charger for her phone, right? She can't find one. Janine, she is looking for her checkbook. She can't find her checkbook, so she decides that she's gonna go down to the bank, right? Mr. Johnson, he's not doing anything because his agenda is in his phone. He don't have his phone, so it ain't nothing for Mr. Johnson to do, right? Gregory, he has no updates on his car because the website for his mechanic, it's outdated. So he can't get anything from it, right? So Janine thinks that they should forfeit the challenge, but then they realize the kids are actually really truly enjoying this. So why would they take that away from the kids, right? And we do see as the kids in Jacob's class, they are having a really good time without their phones. The only people who are struggling are the adults, and it's hilarious, right? So then at one point you see Janine, Gregory, and Jacob together. Then you see Melissa, Barbara, and Mr. Johnson together, right? So each group thinks that the other group is, struggling to get through it, but they're putting on a brave face that they're really not struggling to get through this. And it was hilarious to me, like super funny to me. Hold on, move on. So Melissa is still freaking out about her fantasy team, but she's also still having this side pain, right? Jacob, however, is still freaking out about this Supreme Court decision because he is not able to get on social media. He's not able to see what people are saying. He's not able to change his profile picture and all this kind of stuff. I was like, wow. And it's interesting to show that, because when Janina was talking about Barbara, Melissa, and Mr. Johnson, they're talking about them from being from a different generation where they didn't have modern, they didn't have the technology that we had even in the 90s and the 2000s. But it is interesting to see how dependent these people are on their phones and stuff like that. It's hilarious to me, right? So we find out that Janine tried to go to the bank, right? When Janine tried to go to the bank, she got in her car. Janine doesn't know where the bank is. She asked the man how to get to the bank that was on the corner, and he told her to fuck off, basically. I was like, that is terrible. And that is one thing that I can say, like, places that I go to, I can get there with no problem, right? If it's somewhere that I don't know where I'm going, then yes, I would need my phone because I would need my map. But if it's somewhere that I frequent on a regular basis, it's easy to get there. Gregory, however, he's using the landline to call his mechanic, but he's on hold with his mechanic, and his mechanic is telling him like, "Hey, the best way to get me is to call me, to use your phone, text me, email me, do whatever, right? Not sit here on a landline calling me, right?" So then we have Barbara. So Barbara is very frustrated at this point because once again, she can't get into her lesson plan. But then she thought about it. Taylor is due any day now. Then she was like, that means my grandbaby could be born on Sister Sloss's birthday. Oh, so she was freaking out about that. But then she was like, wait a minute. If my grandchild is born on Sister Sloss's birthday, then Sister Sloss will always have to remember me when she thinks about her birthday. I said, oh my God. So then we see as they snuck into the library, right? Because they were trying to get their phones. So they saw Ava. Ava came in, and they noticed that Ava has a damn a, a, a smartwatch wrapped around her ankle. So ultimately, they're all struggling to get through this day without their mobile devices, right? So they told Daya, go get the damn key, bring the key back so we can get into it. So the young girl Courtney, she stopped Daya. She said, "And where do you think you're going?" She was like, "We want that pizza party." And I was like, "That's right. You stand up for what y'all want. Like, don't let your teachers take away something that you guys really want, because you guys aren't struggling to get through this day like the staff is, right?" So she made a deal with them. They were like, so Janine was like, "Okay, Courtney, we get it. You want the pizza party. We'll give you guys a pizza party." And Courtney looked at her like, "Girl, you can't even afford your rent. Why do you expect me to believe that you're gonna pay for a pizza party?" And she was like, "You know what? She has a point there." So Gregory was like, "We'll all chip in on the pizza party." She's like, "At this point, I want something else." And they were like, "What do you want?" She said, "I want a trip to Disney." Where Ava was like, "Let that trip go." So she's like, "Okay, we want a pizza day." And I was like, "What is a pizza day?" So she just wants a day of pizza work, no nothing, where they have pizza, wings, and soda. They were like, "We can't do the soda, but the pizza and the wings, you got it, right?" So then they opened up the little thing with their phones in it, and they got their phones. Barbara found out that Taylor went into labor, right? Melissa was able to get what she needed, and she found out what's wrong with her side. I think it's her gallbladder. Jacob, nothing with him. Gregory found out that his car, it's going to be over $1,200 for him to get his car fixed, right? I think Janine was able to make her rent payment. And so then the girl from the district came to let them know, like, hey, so essentially every school in the district that was competing, because even Crystal School was competing, every school that was competing, they all failed miserably. Like, none of them were able to go an entire day without their phones. But Abbott was able to go the longest. So they ended up winning the pizza party. And at the end of the episode, we see as everybody is eating pizza, and it's just one of them chill days for them, right? So the kids got what they wanted. And it's just interesting because these kids today, they do live on their phones like they do. And it's so interesting to look at kids today versus when I was in school, right? Because I know here in Texas, they did pass something about the kids not being able to have their phones. I think that's something that passed recently. But it's so interesting because back when I was in school, we didn't, now, when I started high school, that's when everybody was like getting cell phones, right? And I can't remember, it was a black, I remember my first phone, it was this black Motorola phone. I can't remember what the model was. No, it was a Nokia. It was a Nokia. Or was it a Motorola? I had both of them. But, you know, it's interesting this day and age, because again, when I was in school, like when I was in elementary school, cell phones were a thing, but weren't the thing. Like, everybody didn't have a cell phone when I was in elementary school. Everybody didn't have a cell phone when I was in middle school. It was like they were starting to come around, but they weren't like a big hit when I was in middle school. Then high school is when they became a big thing, and in high school, that's when they used to tell us, you can't have your phones. Your phones can't be visible, because if your phones were visible, they would take your phones away, and it would be $15 for us to get our phones back, or they would keep it until the end of the year. Bitch, they never kept mine. That is one thing I can tell you for a fact. They would never never able to get my phone, keep my phone, do anything involving my phone. But that is all I got, you guys. Let me know what you guys thought about this episode down in the comments below. Please subscribe to the channel, turn on your post notifications, share the video, you guys. Until the next time, do me a solid favor. Stay safe, you guys. Take care of yourselves. Wash your hands, be blessed, and I'll see you guys in the next video.